Welcome to Chatsunami. Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 6. Wow, I can't believe it's episode 6 already. Technically 7 if you include the special. But yeah, today we are going to be talking about something festive because in 9 days something very special is going to happen. Do you know what it is, Adam?
Well, I just did a little wee when you told me it was 9 days away. That is remarkably quick.
I know.
I really should be more organized, but oh god, now I'm too terrified now to answer the question.
You
But
know,
I believe it. I believe it's that small little regional celebration called Christmas.
yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah, it's a regional thing, you know. It's probably something you've not heard of, you know, like presents, elves, you know. It's a very niche thing.
I don't know these words you're saying right now, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what? So, you know, to be fair, when I come on Chatsunami, even I don't know the words I say.
Best way to go about it, I find.
Pretty much, yeah. Just
Don't
blast
think
right.
too much.
Yeah, just blast right through it. So, yeah, as you can see by the screen, today's topic is going to be about something, well, of course, something festive, because, as I said, 9 days till Christmas, cannot believe it at all. But yeah, before we get into, so basically what we did was, we both went away and we chose our top 5 Christmas films in no kind of particular order. But what we didn't realise was that our films, or our idea of like what makes a good Christmas film kind of cross between one another, which I was quite shocked when you told me your top 5 list.
I couldn't believe it when you told yours. I was like, oh my god, we're so in sync.
Yeah, it was like,
We just know each other so well.
I know, it's like what the kids call twinsies, probably. Yeah, it was just like, oh, okay. Except for one, there was one I was kind of like, I don't know whether to include it, but it was your persuasion, I think.
I've been browbeat you into
Yeah, you did, yeah. Kind of a spoiler for that one.
It'll be pretty obvious when it comes to it, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
What
absolutely.
the outlier is.
Yeah. So, yeah, before we get into talking about our top Christmas film, I have a question for you, Adam. And
Go on.
yeah, it is one that keeps me up at night around this time of year. There are thousands of Christmas films that get released, and everyone has a different interpretation of what makes a Christmas film a Christmas film. So, my question to you is, what makes a good Christmas film?
Well, in my informed and totally not biased opinion, I got a couple of kind of key principles that I think make for an excellent Christmas film. So number one, I would say it has to be universal. I don't mean Universal Studios. I mean universal as in the way like it has to appeal to like basically every like all people, all generations, all ages, sects of religions, whatever way you want to like define it. Because chances are you're gonna sit down and watch these films. You're probably not going to watch them you might watch them by yourself at times, but you're more likely going to watch them with friends, with family, people from different backgrounds, different ages, everything. So I think for a really good Christmas film, it has to have that kind of universal appeal that everybody can relate to and everybody can kind of get drawn into. As well as I definitely think a Christmas film has to be uplifting. I think it has to make you feel good. It doesn't mean to say that it has to be, all saccharine and it has to be feel good kind of fluff for the whole thing. Like there can be like moments of like, adversity and things, but it has to be uplifting in the end and really kind of this is supposed to be a happy time after all. I think if you want to make a good Christmas film, you have to reflect that. I think as well there has to be an element of magic about it because even as we get older, we get a bit more jaded on Christmas.
Oh,
More
totally.
negatives
Yeah.
get attached to it, but there is still, I don't know. For me, there is still that kind of element of magic, and you always remember as a kid for the most part that kind of element of magic. So you want that in your film, and I do think as well. I was talking about having uplifting, but I think get that kind of triumph over adversity as well is always is a kind of important thing for a Christmas film to have. That of like dealing with troubles and dealing with problems, but pushing through and fighting, getting through it and getting to that kind of uplifting ending. And as well, like I would say, as last two things, I always think having a little element of nostalgia is always good. Kind of reminding you what it was like when you were younger, Christmas and everything, and then maybe having a bit of a miracle as well. You can't go wrong with including a miracle element in your Christmas film because it is the season of miracles.
That is very true, though. And kind of just going back to what you were saying about the idea of having, like, overcoming adversity and things like that in films. Like, I mean, one of the, like, classic examples of, like, a really... I mean, I suppose, like, there are a lot of films, because, I mean, let's face it, Christmas is, like, at the end of every year, and let's face it, a lot of people go through, like, really tough times during the year. So it's kind of that, like, festival or that holiday where everyone comes together, kind of reflects, and yeah, especially for the films, they almost kind of condense all of that into like one kind of like, I don't want to say like a Michael Bay quick action film, but you know, it's
It's not far off. It's not a bad description, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like, right, we've got a conflict, okay? We got to run with this. Go, 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 go. Happy holidays, go, 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 go. You got Santa like right down that chute. You're like, go. And yeah, it's, I mean, as you were saying about adversity, I mean, I think like one of the best examples is it Joy Noel? You're the one about the World War One soldiers.
Oh god, yeah, the Christmas truce.
Yeah, it's where they come together. I mean, obviously, let's ignore what happened after that day.
But it was as a moment in time.
Yeah, as a moment in time, it was like, yeah, kind of like the peak almost of, like the peak of, you know, like adversity, then kind of setting that aside and then bringing people together.
Yeah.
And I mean, the idea of being universal as well. I think that this is kind of something I think we talked about last week with our childhood, like video games and things like that, about the idea of universality. Ugh, can't even speak tonight because I'm so filled with festive cheer. But yeah, that too. I actually bought some Quality Streets before the stream. No joke. Yeah, I meant to send you a picture, but I'll do that after.
Oh, you tease.
Yeah. Yeah, just waving those toffee pennies around. What can I say? Anyway, grinchiness aside of me. So, yeah, it has to be universal. I do agree with that. Because if something's too... I don't want to say too kid-friendly, but you know what I mean? If it's too... I mean, films like Arthur Christmas, I suppose, is like a good example.
Yeah.
Like, it still focuses on the Santa element and everything like that, but it kind of reins that in. Reindeer, something. And,
Good fun.
yeah, but you know, these puns aren't intentional, by the way. I'm trying to bring my A game, so...
Got a whole list of them, you're just working your way through. Ticking them off.
Yeah. It's like Santa's naughty or nice list, but instead it's just a whole list of puns, and there is no naughty or nice.
Oh, no.
They're all classics in my eyes. But yeah, it's going to appeal to everyone. Like, you can't just have... I mean, don't get me wrong, there probably are, like, a lot of nihilistic Christmas films out there. I think one of the films, like, before we go on to kind of our, you know, our top 5 Christmas films, I think one of the films that really puts me off is A Nightmare Before Christmas. So, spoilers, like, for anybody who thought that made the top 5. Yeah, I would have vetoed it if you would. If you brought it up, I would have vetoed it.
You don't think it's a Christmas film?
No. I think it definitely qualifies as a Christmas film, but I think it's too nihilistic too. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a stop motion Tim Burton film. But
Isn't that nihilistic? I mean, I'm going to put my hands up. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I'd probably consider it more a Halloween film than a Christmas film.
The only bit I remember is Santa being tied up and nearly getting gutted by the boogeyman, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
Christmas, adversity.
But that's the adversity,
Yeah.
And then we get the triumph for it, where Jack Skellington, that's the guy's name, isn't it?
Yeah,
realizes that he should just stay in his lane, and he's the king of Halloween.
Yeah, remember, kids, if you
tell them about segregation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like,
God,
you belong.
Exactly,
it's like you belong to one holiday. So either pick Halloween, pick Christmas, or get out and be one of those Easter people.
God, I'm sorry if anybody, this is like somebody's favorite film, which is like gutting it here.
Yeah, I am.
It like Santa nearly was.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I apologise, guys. Sorry, that's me saying, oh yeah, Christmas films should be upbeat and cheery, and then immediately I just went for the throat, like, now let me tell you about why I don't like that. Anyway, yeah, moving on. So yeah, no, very good points. And yeah, before we go on to, like, our top 5 list, Adam, was there something that you wanted to bring up before we went on?
Thank you very much. I wanted to
Yeah.
pose a counter question to you,
Ooh.
sort of along the same theme.
Mhm.
But does a Christmas movie have to be set at Christmas?
Now that is the $1 million question. I mean,
I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer to this one because I'm not totally sure what I think.
it's it's a good question because I know the obvious one here is Die Hard. The
That's
obvious.
set at Christmas.
Oh, true. Okay. So does a Christmas film have to be set at Christmas for
And
it to
I'll tell
qualify?
you, I'll tell you where my thinking is on this.
Okay.
Is because there's a lot of films I associate with Christmas, but I don't think they wouldn't be termed Christmas films. I don't know if anybody else would. Like a lot of the Pixar films, I like are associated with Christmas in my mind because that's when a lot of them used to appear on the BBC when I was younger and stuff, and I'd sit down and watch them with the family and everything. Casablanca is another one that always comes on at Christmas. Snow White, I think, usually the old Disney one, Snow White appears quite a lot of times. So these are films that you could argue. Wizard of Oz is another one. They appear at Christmas time, and they maybe have many of those elements that we just talked about making a good Christmas film. But in that way that they're not set at Christmas, does it have to be? Does your film have to take place in and around Christmas to be a Christmas film? Is that like the starting point? Which is what I was wondering. Cause I don't know. Like I was gonna say no, but now I feel like I've talked myself out of it. I'm psyched myself out.
No, I know what you mean. Like for me, usually those kind of films are on at. They're usually on at Hogmanay for me. Like
Okay.
I remember years ago, like spending it with like my family and everything, and turning on the TV, and the Princess and the Frog I think was running on BBC One.
Oh yeah.
And that is you're on the money there. It's always a Disney film that they bought the rights to, and I think
One day.
yeah, usually it's like a film that's maybe a year or two out of date, and the BBC they'll go and they'll be like, yes, we've got the rights to this Disney film. And yeah, they'll keep playing it and playing it and playing it, and you're just like, oh my god, just why? And it's like they really make a big meal about it. I mean, Christmas big meals, so it's kind of on point. But they always like advertise it, hype it up, and go, yeah, this is the film. But yeah, I would say in a like subjective stand, like obviously objectively, you could probably say it doesn't count, but see if it's subjective, like if it's a film that you've like watched with your family or someone special, yeah, I don't see why you couldn't class it as like a personal Christmas film, if you know what I mean.
It's a very subjective. It's another kind of subjective
Yeah.
sort of a question, isn't it? And yeah, you're totally right. No, you've convinced me. You're right. It is sort of how you view it, isn't it? And how you feel about it. So yeah, I couldn't
Definitely.
agree more.
And speaking of Christmas films, dun, I don't have sound effects or any music yet. So if anyone has, if anyone knows anyone out there who would like to make music for Chatsunami, please let me know. And yes, this is my Christmas request here, coming to you live. So yeah, without any further ado, let's just jump right into our first film. Let me get the list up because I have completely forgotten it.
It was that memorable a list.
It was that memorable a list, I completely forgot it. So the first one, I'll start with like an upbeat one. The one we've kind of chose is probably going to be a controversial choice. We chose Jingle All the Way.
I don't see why this would be controversial.
So, well, see, I absolutely loved this film. See, when it was out, I loved it. It was one that was always on at Christmas. I just really enjoy it. It's so, it's so silly and over the top. I was about to say stupid, but I wouldn't go that far. It's so silly and over the top, but it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot of fun, I would say. But yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say it didn't really rate very well.
Oh god, oh no, it's terrible. The review, I think it's sitting at like 19% or something.
Is it? I thought
or
it was
something like Metacritic or Rotten.
Yeah.
Maybe it's lower, to be honest. But
I think it's I can't remember what the exact percentage is, but I remember I was looking at like a list of films, and it actually fell under worst Christmas films more than it did best Christmas films.
Oh, that's a real shame.
Yeah, it really is, because you think it doesn't deserve that hate. I don't think it does not deserve that hate.
It definitely does not. It's that thing of it. The way I look at it is, it fits into that kind of category of being so corny it's good.
Yeah.
It's so silly and it's just stupid, but it's so good. And here you go. This is why it doesn't deserve the hate. This is a mod. Like, we've got all these films that rely on the kind of old kind of stereotypes of Christmas, and
Yeah.
kind of historical things about it. This is a modern Christmas tale for our times. This is probably the most relatable like film. Christmas film. The plot of this
Yeah.
is probably the most relatable that anybody. Maybe if you, even if you haven't been a parent. So if anybody doesn't know, like, the plot revolves around Arnold Schwarzenegger is this like workaholic dad who's desperately trying to make up. He's hardly around to spend time with his like wife or his son, and so he's. But to try and make up for some of that, he's desperate to get this action figure called Turbo Man for his son. It's the must-have item of Christmas. You know, like Furbies or Cabbage Patch Kids or whatever. Like what was it? Was that a BB-8? The robot one was fairly recent, wasn't it? That was.
I think it was that the last couple of years, yeah.
Yeah,
Because it always is. I mean, I suppose technically this year it's probably the new Xbox.
Oh, that's true. Or an Xbox
Yeah.
or a PS5 would be the ones now. Yeah,
Because-
yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it takes the magic out of it. Like, if you look at a film like Jingle All the Way, and it's about like all these parents going to like ridiculous lengths to get like a toy action figure, and nowadays it's like more technology based. Don't get me wrong, like, you still probably had things like that back then, not obviously to the same extent, but yeah, it's kind of a shame.
I can't remember using this word, but it's a really refreshing slice of holiday cynicism. I think, to compare to all the kind of saccharine and sweet like films that we get typically at all the times. This film has black market toy rings run by like Santas.
Yeah.
It has like absolute crass capitalism. All these like parents don't get any time to spend with their kids, so the only way they can make it up is to go and get this consumerist item to get for them. It has mail bomb threats in it. Like, what other holiday film has a letter bomb in it? Like, you know,
I forgot all about that scene.
I know. It wasn't until I was like, oh my god, there's a mail bombing in this film. Like, what other Christmas film has these elements in it? And so I think it is actually a really different and actually quite refreshing. You know, it's not gonna win any like, you know, classic film of all time thing, but for what it is, like, it's so much fun. I mean, and what other film as well like has somebody punch a reindeer and then get drunk with it? Name me another film that has those two elements. What really completes it for me is that like Arnie is so badly miscast in this film. Like, he should not have been in this film. It should have been somebody like, I was gonna say John Belushi was dead by that point, but like his brother Jim Belushi, somebody like that, Jim Belushi or something. It should have been somebody like that, but for some reason Arnie was in this film. He's so miscast, but it's what makes it great, because he's just not believable as this average like workaholic dad. Some of the lines he has in it are great, like the classic, he got to
put that cookie down.
It's turbo time. Like, there's all these great lines in it.
I do. Sorry, just like the kind of throwaway joke I do love, and this is going back to like the cynicism kind of jokes, is so in the film, as you were saying, Arnold is looking for like this toy Turbo Man, which is like it's like a superhero, isn't he?
Yeah, basically,
and he's got it's like a sidekick called Booster. And I always burst out laughing at the Booster scenes, because all the time, like whenever he goes to any of the shops, like nobody has like a Turbo Man, but they've got a Booster doll, and they've got like shelves upon shelves, and nobody's buying it. And even at the end, like they're like on this parade, and there's this guy, like one guy dressed as Turbo Man, spoilers, and the other guy dressed as Booster, and it ends up Booster gets like punched into the crowd, and all these kids start beating on him, saying nobody likes you.
That's like, such a funny guy.
It's just like, Jesus. Poor guy.
Actually prefaces like comic book nerd rage as well. So like, he has so many great critiques of our current society. And that's why it's a gem and should be appreciated more. Do you want a fun fact about that parade scene?
Yeah, do go.
So it took 3 weeks to film that parade scene.
Oh god!
And basically, like, so for the most part, the film was filmed in Minneapolis, I think, because Minneapolis is known for like having a really long winter, so they could get kind of a lot of snow scenes and everything. So they were filming, I think, around springtime, going into summer. But they had to film the parade scenes in LA at one of the studio lots. I can't remember which one. Maybe it's Universal or something. So they had to, and this was when summer was happening. So those parade scenes were supposed to be at winter. Like for most of the days, it was about 37 degrees Celsius, which is 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah,
pretty much that. So, and I do remember, but like, the Sinbad who dresses, who's like
the postman,
the postman, who dresses up as the bad guy. Oh, I've forgotten what Turbo Man's nemesis is called, Destructor or something like that.
He's the guy with the big brain. I remember.
Big brain. So that's got water in it. That water actually like started to like boil apparently at points because it was that hot and stuff, and it was like evaporating and everything because it was that warm. So in 3 weeks of that. So I think the Turbo Man suit had to be like water cooled or something. Like there was like special water of cooling bits all the way through it because it was that like just unbearable to be filming. So there you go. There's a fun fact for you to appreciate next time. Next time anybody watches Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, just like watches them like bubble.
Just these people like roasting to death in their winter clothing.
Walking in a winter wonderland. Anyway. Actually, sorry, before we move on to like our next film on the list, just like one thing about the film where, as you said, it's like kind of nihilistic, I suppose, like a kind of satire of capitalism almost. It's like all these, like as you said, all the parents going out, not spending time with the family, trying to get like this Turbo Man doll. I think like a similar thing actually did happen in real life. Oh, what film was it? Toy Story. That was it when Toy Story came out. Because a lot of people like draw parallels between. I can't remember if I think Jingle All the Way came before Toy Story.
No.
Or
You're
was
actually
it after?
funny. Do you know that actually that's what apparently inspired the story of Jingle All the Way?
See, that's what I thought,
as you said, the rush for the Buzz Lightyear toys.
Yeah.
So Toy Story came out in 95. So that would have been Christmas 95. And Jingle All the Way, I think, was released 96, I think, maybe 97.
Yeah.
So it was a couple of years after. But you're actually exactly right. That was what I can't remember if it was a screenwriter or if it was a director. One of them, anyway, based it off that. Their experience of trying to get this. They were trying to get this toy, Buzz Lightyear toy for their kid. So based it off that. So you're totally right that the exact parallels are there.
Yeah, oh god, I couldn't imagine doing that. It's like like kind of standing in line and, like obviously if you're a parent and, you would do it. You would do it out of love, but I'm sorry, Adam, I'm not waiting in a line for you. For a Buzz Lightyear or a Turbo Man.
Not even any doubt there, just straight off the bat. Nah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, right on Amazon, just like, I'm sorry, they were out of stock.
I tried my hardest. I sat down for 5 minutes.
And I'm all out of ideas. On that note, in my Scrooginess, so the second film, which... Yeah, quite an interesting one, actually. This is one that's got a lot of trivia as well. And that is Home Alone, which I actually did watch again recently. And I forgot how good a film it was.
Such a good film.
Oh, it really is. Like, I don't know. Like, there is a debate, right enough, like, between is the first one better than the second one? I don't know.
Did you know where you fall down on that debate?
I used to say I preferred the second one because it was the one I saw more on TV.
Fair enough.
Well, admit it was definitely the one I saw more on TV, so I was like, oh yeah, the second one's the best, and then I rewatched it again, and I was like, yeah, no, the first one's definitely the better one, I think. Oh well, they're both kind of like on par, but the less we say about like 3 onwards, the better.
Yeah, they don't exist.
What don't exist?
Exactly. No, I think the first one is the best. I think the only place the second one has it beat is just like I remember watching one time a video on YouTube where this doctor analyzed how many like Harrys and how many Marvs it would take to survive the events of Home Alone 1 and Home Alone 2, and there's just the point like how many Marvs were killed in the making of Home Alone 2, where he's just getting hit with 4 bricks in his face.
Jesus,
Marv is dead. Just continually. So that would, but I think the first one is the perfect blend of fun, peril, and then like Christmas. It's those 3 things, it's got all the things which make a really exciting, a really like fun romp. It's got a good dose of sentimentality and to tug at your heartstrings. And to be honest, I only actually saw this film. Like I'd seen bits of it, but I only ever watched it fully last year. It was the first time I'd seen it through. So when I watched, I was like, oh, maybe I'm too old now. Got that fear, I was like, maybe I've missed the point where this will really have an impact on me, and perhaps I'll just sit there and be like, I wish I'd seen this when I was younger. But no, still great.
Yeah.
I still absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. Watching it, look forward to watching it again. I think just really as well, it embodies that magic of Christmas. Just
Oh
talking
yeah.
about like what I thought was like an important thing with a Christmas film to have. It embodies that magic, and seeing it from this like kid's perspective and just everything, and defending home home house rules and liberty.
I was gonna say, I mean, child neglect aside, like, this is one of those films that is whimsical and magical if you don't think about it. Like, definitely, like, if you think too deep into this. Like, I remember thinking, like, to the second one, there's a scene at the very end. So, like, in the first one is just about a kid who's left behind while his family goes on holiday, and he has to defend the house against these robbers, which, oh, he does try calling the police, doesn't he? And they don't believe him.
Oh,
Or
I think
something,
he does early on, and they just
or something like that, yeah. But then in the second one, it's just the same story, but the difference is it's like he's in New York and he's in a hotel room, and then he goes to like a relative's house or something like that. And I remember I was talking to my brother about this, and at the very end, this was like a moment that really made me like tear up, because I was like, this is such like a lovely moment at the end. It's when in the second one he's with the bird lady, and he gives her a turtle dove. Do you remember that one?
think I do.
It's like he meets like this homeless woman who like
I
runs
remember her. I don't
Yeah.
quite remember the turtle dove bit. I have to-
like at the end, like I think he gets what is it? It's like he goes to a toy shop and the owner gives him like 2 sets of turtle doves, and it's supposed to be like a sign of friendship, And then at the end, when he meets when he meets this woman for the last time, he gives over like this turtle dove to say, oh, we're friends and all of that, because like she helped him out so much. And it's a really touching moment, and I was like, oh my god, that is so nice. And I remember watching it with my brother, who was a bit of a Grinch. He was like, right, so Kevin can spend all that money from his dad's credit card on a 5-star hotel, but he gives her a lousy Christmas tree ornament. And I'm like, but that's not the point.
It's the symbolism.
It's the
damn it.
symbolism. Yelling through the tears. That's not the point. But yeah, going back, like, kind of dialing back the whimsy to the first one. My god, there is so many, like, that, like, you see, rewatching as an adult, I don't think it has the same impact as a kid. When you're watching, like, him throwing, like, bricks and them, like, falling over and things, you're like, haha, very funny slapstick. But then when you rewatch some of them, like, I mean, one of them, like, steps through a nail.
Yeah.
Like, Quiet Place style. And I was like, oh, God. Like,
Those paint cans are gonna hurt when they hit your face. Like,
oh, yeah, exactly.
that's all your teeth just broken and along with your nose.
I think the worst one for me was, or well, one of many, but see when he, like, grabs the door handle and he gets, like, the M burned into his hand? It's like, that's the kind of thing you see, like, in those Oscar bait films. Where it's like they get branded at the beginning. And then this one, it's like, oh, he stopped a robber. It's like,
How funny.
and like at this stage, you could have like a whole, like, I mean, we could have like a whole Chatsunami philosophical debate, or sorry, moral debate about like, how far is too far for defending your home?
You should go watch that. You should go watch that YouTube video. I think it's like
Oh, yeah.
I think it's called Honest Action
Yeah.
and Home Alone. But just going through that and just seeing like the punishment these two like take. And,
Oh,
okay, fair enough,
God,
they're
yeah.
criminals, but at the same time, like they are non-violent. They are non-violent criminals. They don't actually hurt anybody like in the whole thing.
Yeah.
These
Well,
kids-
they do a lot of property damage, mind you, by turning
Okay,
on
they
the
do a lot of
taps.
property damage. Fair enough, but
But yeah, I know, they
End
don't
of the
like.
day, I don't know if they deserve to get. I don't think this guy deserves to get 4 bricks like thrown. In his face.
Yeah, and nails through their hands, or the tarantula and everything. Oh, God.
I mean, I think the funniest thing about this film,
Yeah.
when you watch it as an adult, is watching Joe Pesci just try his hardest not to like utter any swear words at all. And
See-
apparently, he had a real problem with that on set. Like because he's so used to playing these gangster films where like like the F word is every 5th word that you would say. It really
Yeah,
struggles.
see,
to
I
dial it down.
didn't. This is like a fun fact for me. I genuinely didn't know he was part of those kind of films.
Oh, really?
Like, genuinely, that was the first time I saw Joe Pesci in like a major film, and it was like I watched it, and I was like, all right, he must be haha, comic relief and everything. And then when you watch him in some of the other like
Goodfellas or something.
Or Casino. Oh God, in Casino, yeah. It's just he is a bad man. Well, his characters are bad men, but you know what I mean. Like he is a right. Like you look at him and think, Jesus. It's like
He has played such a duality of those. I can't think of an actor whose like most famous films are so diametrically opposed. You know, in that way, it's actually quite incredible. Yeah, he could do both those things.
It reminds me of, I don't know, have I told you about the Tyson effect?
Oh, what was that?
I can't remember if I told you about it before. It was like, so this is like completely random off of like Christmas films, but I remember I was watching this Chinese film ages ago called Ip Man, or like the third Ip Man film, and it's a good film, like good martial arts
one, is it?
Yeah. And there's a scene in it where they got Mike Tyson in to like speak like really, bad Chinese and everything, and it's like on the one hand it looks goofy, like when he's fighting them, but if you were in that position and you were fighting them, it's like you would not want to be in that position. You would, and I feel as if it's the same with Joe Pesci. It's like you can kind of laugh at him, but if he was in your house trying to steal your shit, like
I'd be throwing bricks at him.
Yeah, I would be in like Camp Kevin. I would just be throwing bricks and everything, just like get out of my house, Joe Pesci. Throwing the Quality Street down, just like here, you can have it.
To be honest, if Joe Pesci was in my house, I'd probably just move and be like, "Nope, you have it now, Joe. That's your house now."
I wonder if that's how he gets his like holiday homes now. He just walks in and it's like,
"Look, Joe Pesci's in my house." They phone up the police like, "Oh my God, Joe Pesci's in." Oh man, we're not dealing with that, sir. You're on your own.
Yeah, it's like, no, we're police. We're not
Godspeed.
We're not risking that. Oh God.
Do you want a fun fact? Do you want a fun fact?
Absolutely, yeah.
As you said, there's a lot of trivia behind this film. But I actually found out one today that I didn't know about, and I'm interested to know if you know about this. Do you know that there's a lot of people believe that? Well, I say a lot of people. A section of people believe that Elvis Presley is still alive, or is still alive, and there are a lot of people that said that he actually appears in this film, which was 13 years after his death. So apparently, in one scene in the airport, I think where Kevin's mum is trying to like get a flight back, maybe just before she like meets that like traveling band, and goes in their van. So when she's at the desk talking, a lot of people swear that there's an extra behind her who is Elvis Presley.
That is.
There you go. I looked at them and I do not know where they're getting the resemblance from. I'll see if I can dig out a picture and send it to you later on. But I don't quite know where they're getting the resemblance from. But I thought, wow, that's crazy.
Actually, I've got a fun fact to give you as well. Well, I have to admit, like when I was watching it again, I like looked up the IMDb page, and honestly, there are so many facts about this film. I think there was a lot of casting things as well. I don't know if Robert De Niro was meant to be in this film.
He was meant to be. He was meant to be Harry, I think, was he?
I think so. Yeah. But yeah, he didn't, which is probably for the best. I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think by now, they're definitely more iconic, I would say. Because I don't know, it would come off as like a child's version of Casino.
Yeah.
And also one more fact before we go into our third film, that the scene. So this is quite kind of a wholesome fact. You know the scene where Kevin's like looking through his cousin's like photos and things like that?
Yeah.
And he comes across a picture of a girl who's meant to be like one of his cousin's girlfriends. And he says something like, "Oh, what a dog," or something like that, like something really derogatory. Apparently, the director was like really like sensitive to the idea that he didn't want a girl in that picture. So everyone was going to look at that and go, "Oh yeah, that's the girl from Home Alone who's meant to be the ugly one and things." So he got like the boy to dress up as a girl.
Oh really?
Yeah. So like basically, so they weren't just insulting like a random wee lassie to call her ugly.
Well, fair enough. I mean,
that was kind of nice in a way.
That's very wholesome and nice, and not at all what I expect from Hollywood.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, the director was really nice though on that one.
It's Christopher Columbus, isn't it? Is the guy?
I think so. Yeah.
The first couple of Harry Potters.
Yeah.
He seems like a nice guy. Good for you, Chris. Yeah. Good for you, Chris.
Good chap.
That's some wholesome. So that's why it's a perfect Christmas film. That's the kind of wholesomeness.
Yeah, exactly.
To balance out the crass consumerism of Jingle All the Way.
That is true. So going on to the third one, I'm kind of looking through the list to see what we could do for it. You know what? We'll go for like a quintessential film before we come on to like the last ones.
Before we bite the bullet.
Yeah. So the next one, which is one I actually talked about with Craig, who you might have heard on Chatsunami before. Yeah, we were talking about the Muppets Christmas Carol, which is third on our list. I have to admit, it's a film you cannot have Christmas without, personally.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
And yeah, it is. It's just like so iconic. I feel as if like this is definitely the first version that a lot of kids get introduced to that story, A Christmas Carol. I mean,
This might,
especially
I
sorry,
was just say this might be the only version of A Christmas Carol I've ever fully seen. I've never read the original, and I don't think I've ever sat down and watched another version because why would you? There's no need to ever make another version of Christmas Carol again. It was made perfectly here.
yeah,
They took the perfect Christmas story and they added Muppets, but keeping the spirit of the original.
yeah. I have to admit, I've watched different versions of it, and a lot of films, like good and bad, they all try to they all put their own spin on it, like some modern, some good, some bad, and it's just. Ugh, it's some of them you just want, like the one with Jim Carrey. Have you seen that one?
No, I've not seen that one. I've heard
I
things.
ugh. It has some really good elements, but overall it's just nightmare fuel. And then they expect you to be happy at the end, and you're just like, no, that's ain't it. I mean, with the Muppets Christmas Carol, at least there's the music, there's the upbeat tone and everything, and then at the very end, you're just like, you're filled with like that sense of like resolution, and everyone's come round and had like a character arc. I mean,
Yeah,
especially Scrooge, like he's the quintessential like example of a character arc,
yeah.
going from a grumpy old you know what to a grumpy old Scrooge. Practically coining the phrase. But yeah, absolutely adore this. And fun fact about this one, actually, in the film, like if you haven't like heard of the story by now, which if you haven't, by the way, go read it, go watch it. Amazing story, like one of my favourite Christmas stories. But yeah, it's about like a very greedy, how to put it, like just a greedy industrialist. Back to this
Yeah.
capitalism thing again.
This seems
Yeah,
maybe this is the thing. Perhaps we need like capitalist like critique for a good Christmas film. Perhaps that's the underlying thing.
yeah. Next week, Chatsunami discusses capitalism. Apparently.
I think actually capitalist critiques are in all five of the films that we've picked.
I think you're right, if I'm honest. I mean,
There you go. Add that to the list.
yeah, I mean, he is, though. He's like a greedy
Oh, he
industrialist
is
who,
totally.
he doesn't care about other people's feelings, and then he gets visited by three ghosts who, like, show him the error of his ways, and, it's all happy at the end, and, they all start singing and dancing. But the one thing that threw me off, so he gets visited to begin with by his friend Jacob Marley, who basically says, if you don't change, you're going to be like me, you're going to be a ghost, and then he does the woo, and then runs away. I'm oversimplifying, but this is my speedrun version of A Christmas Carol. But yeah, in the film, he's visited by the two like heckling Muppets, and for the longest, yeah, for the longest time, I thought, how they come in and they sing the song Marley and Marley.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I genuinely thought that Marley and Marley were like two separate characters throughout all the versions. I didn't realise it was only one character. And like when I was watching the other films, I was so confused. I was like, okay, there's one coffin. Where's the other one? I was like, oh, it's the Muppets. Oh, oh god, yeah, yeah. That's my embarrassing fact for this film.
Oh, it's so. I mean, what I think was really interesting about this film as well. This was the first Muppet. So there'd been a couple of Muppets films before this one. This
Yeah,
was the first one though to actually focus on a human character. I mean, and then
yeah,
subsequently, that has been a trend. Treasure Island was a couple of years after that, and then obviously like the recent Muppet films as well had a focus on human characters. But this was the first one to do it as well. Also, this was the first film without Jim Henson, who had died, I think, 2 years before. So like the original creator of
yeah.
the Muppets, everything and the original voice of Kermit and everything, he died 2 years before, and it was his son who was directing. And it's actually a really kind of sweet,
Yeah,
Christmassy
it's
story
nice.
behind
Yeah.
it because so when like he was obviously because it was a really unexpected. I think Jim Henson died of like complications of pneumonia or something. He was only like
Oh,
53, so he
really?
was quite
Oh.
young. Yeah, it was a really like a really shocking death, and like
Hmm.
especially for his son, you can imagine. And so his son Brian directed this film. And I think he was still trying to process his dad's death and stuff. And so when this idea first surfaced, with the way his kind of head was thinking, he was kind of thinking like he wanted to do like a really kind of irreverent parody, like just kind of like taking the novel to task and everything, and just doing like a kind of like I say parody kind of
Yeah.
shit take of it almost. But then like the more he thought about it, and the more he was like, what would my dad want to do and everything. And then he kind of came and he thought that's probably not what my dad would want. So he came around to this idea of actually, treating the story with reverence and still having that kind of the Muppets wits and the humor
Yeah.
and the irreverence of it, but like meshing it with the original kind of the ethos and the kind of themes of the story. And actually, it's really interesting because Gonzo quotes like great lengths of the text actually, because he plays the role of Charles Dickens
Yeah. Yeah.
almost in this, and there's so much like lines lifted from the text that he says, and it actually helps to
Mhm.
give you really gives you that kind of. It's why it's the best adaptation because it does so
Mhm.
well taking the words to actually set the scene and everything
Yeah.
that no other adaptation that I can see has done that in that way of actually like lifting from it. So
Yeah.
it's this actual perfect blend of these two things. It's got everything. It's got the humor. It's got the humor of the Muppets. You have the terror, which is quite like elements of almost horror in the Christmas Story,
Oh
especially with
yeah. Mhm.
Ghost of Christmas Future, isn't it? It's Future's the
Yeah.
kind of scary one.
I'm gonna
And
admit
then
it. Sorry, I was just gonna say I'm gonna admit it. See the Ghost of Christmas Past. I find her so much creepier than the
oh,
Ghost of
she's
well,
terrifying
the
as well.
future Ghost. Because we're gonna say the Ghost of Christmas Future, but is it not the Ghost of Things Yet to Come or something or
Oh, yeah, that's probably
something?
true.
Probably, but no, same thing. But
You're
yeah,
probably
yeah, I think she is so creepy. Like
oh, she's
everyone's like,
terrifying.
oh, it's a a fantastical like ghost girl, and I'm just like internally screaming the entire time, thinking, "Be
Yeah.
gone!"
But that's probably what it should be as well, because these are ghosts, so
Oh
there
yeah,
should be
yeah.
there should be an element of terror, and I think that's maybe something that's in the original
Mm.
like novella as well.
Yeah.
So they just hit everything. They hit everything. But it's a perfect film in so many ways.
Yeah, all I'm
Um,
saying is like don't watch this film and then watch the Jim Carrey version and expect the same thing. That thing ramps up the horror to like 11 for some of them,
jeez,
especially with the Ghost of Christmas Present. Like the Ghost of Christmas Present in the Muppets version is just very like cheery and
jolly, yeah.
yeah, jolly, and he kind of talks, in a very like soft way. And something I didn't notice as well, I was actually watching a review of it the other day, and the guy pointed out that he's quite absent-minded, like about things in the past, and I thought that was quite a neat touch. It's something I never really thought of, but it's quite a neat touch that he's kind of, he's walking around and he's like talking, he's like, did I say that? Oh, and he bursts into song, and it's like, okay, but how do I get home? But yeah, I do agree. And going back to your point about the like mixing the lines from the book compared to like some of the other or what could have been if it was just like a straight out parody. Because I mean, one of my favorite
Yeah.
lines is definitely from the book where he says where he's convinced that the ghosts are just like they're a figment of his imagination, and it's like indigestion that he's got. And he like goes in this huge rant, and he says it could be a bit of undigested roast beef. Yes, there's more gravy than grave about you, or something. And it's like for 1800 standards, I'm like that's such a slapdown. I'm like bravo. Just
That's amazing.
more gravy than gravy. I love it. There's just so many moments where I'm just like, oh, great line, great line. It's like writing them down, like, oh, Dickens, you're a genius. Next line. It's like, but it is, and I do think it is good that Michael Caine he plays it quite seriously as well,
Yeah.
rather than again, it's like he's not mugging to the camera. He's not going, oh, look at
Yeah.
me, and yeah, he's not like he's not taking it for granted, or not taking it for granted, but he's not making a parody of it.
Yeah. No,
Um,
he is, as you say, he is treating it seriously, but in the bits that are meant to be serious and that
yeah,
should be serious. But
especially
then,
especially for the end though. Like at the very very end, I don't know if you remember this, but throughout the film, like Gonzo and is it Rizzo,
Rizzo, yeah.
yeah, they like narrate the whole thing, and then as soon as it gets to the ghost of like Christmas future, yet to come, whatever, they like disappear. They're just like boop. They're just like, yeah, peace out. We'll come back later, and it's that like moments that it allows the film to kind of just go at its own pace.
Yeah.
That and the Tiny Tim scene, that is just tragic.
Oh god,
I
yeah.
mean, can you imagine being the puppeteer who had to like make that tiny crutch
Oh,
and be like, yes, this is Tiny Tim's crutch.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
There's actually some really impressive puppetry in it as well. Because I mean, I don't know if you remember, it's quite a short scene, but it's when Scrooge is with the ghost of Christmas Present, and he's at Bob Cratchit's house,
Yeah.
and then Kermit, who plays Bob Cratchit, in this version is strolling down with Tiny Tim on his shoulder
Oh
to
yeah.
get to the house, and it's actually a full scene of Kermit walking. That apparently took 10 puppeteers to make
Really?
that work. It's so
Wow.
okay. So what they had like a rolling drum, and you can actually, if you go back and watch it, I think the scene is it's called "Tis the Season" or something. So you can type.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But there's this rolling drum that was kind of dusted in fake snow that's rolling beneath Kermit's legs, and so there was 10 other puppeteers like moving his legs, moving his arms, doing everything else. Like this really complicated scene that's only about like 30 seconds long, maybe even less than that. But just like wow, just some of that for some of the special effects and physical puppetry was really impressive as well.
Because I mean, there's a lot of like if you look at the behind the scenes, you can see a lot of them dressed like Power Rangers, like in the full green suits, like moving the puppets and everything. It's really impressive. It's a great film, and I don't think without it, I don't think Christmas is really the same.
We can't say it's happened.
Yeah. So, like speaking of films that aren't the same without it at Christmas, and this is one that I've got a confession about as well. But the fourth one that we did agree on, this is the one I wasn't sure of putting on. But yeah, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off. Yeah, it's Die Hard. It's Die Hard, right? And I am going to confess now. So, as you guys may know, I am very bad at watching things people recommend. Like, people will recommend something, I'll be like, yeah, I'll watch it, and then I never do. I was on a flight over somewhere, and it was taking hours and hours, so all I could do was sit there and watch films. And I saw Die Hard was there. So yeah, about 3 years ago, that was the first time I watched Die Hard. In fact, no, 2 years ago, sorry. Bordering on 3. Yeah, that was the very first time I watched Die Hard.
And not a blessed moment too soon.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and this is the one that's hotly debated as a Christmas film.
This is the great philosophical question of our age. Really is Die Hard a Christmas film, or is it not?
Well, if it's on this list, then yes.
It's proven. I think as I said to you, for sums up, it perhaps isn't a Christmas film, but damn it, it's a Christmas film to me.
It's a Christmas film to many people, though, which I'm really surprised at.
Although I think a survey of US adults this year apparently found that 51% did not consider it a Christmas film. So I think it's slightly more consider it not a Christmas film than do.
Yeah, but I mean 49. Although I have to admit, 49. Ever since I watched it, I don't think I've watched it since, or if I have, I've watched bits and pieces of it. Never watched the sequels though, which I know they're just straight action films, aren't they?
Yeah, certainly 2 and 3 I think are worth. If you want to go further into Die Hard, I would go up to 3 and then just forget about the other ones.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, but the second one is set at Christmas as well, so the second one is technically a Christmas film.
Nice.
Well, the third one is not. After that, it moves away from being Christmas films to more chemistry action. But yeah, I mean, I don't see how this isn't a Christmas film. It's got all the Christmas themes in it. We've got redemption and reconciliation, which are classic Christmas themes. The importance of family and friendship.
That is true.
We have getting, the importance of getting shiny new gifts like machine guns.
That is very true.
Also, here's the 2 incontrovertible bits of proof that the Die Hard is a Christmas film.
Oh God!
So John McClane's wife is called Holly.
I mean, what more do you need?
And there's a pregnant woman in it as well.
Okay.
I rest my case.
It took me a minute, but okay.
This is a Christmas film through and through.
I mean, and there's a man with a beard who came through the chimney. I mean,
came to give presents to his European friends.
It does as well, doesn't it?
It's a perfect reflection of a Christmas party, probably as well.
That is true.
Into a raucous Christmas party, it's got all the elements of that.
I mean,
drugs, sex, and
minus the guns, that is definitely some. I don't know, see the
maybe
maybe not as glamorous, but I'm just thinking back to my own experiences with office parties, and it's just a lot of standing around and awkward small talk. It's you basically the rule of thumb is if you're trapped in an office party that Bruce Willis isn't going to gate crash or Hans Gruber, then yeah, basically what you want to do is just pile up with the pizza or whatever food is there, and yeah, just tuck in, and no one's going to come near the guy with a full pizza.
That's true. You're too busy eating to make small talk.
Yeah, exactly. You just walk on, just don't make eye contact, and if worst comes to the worst, take a leaf out of Bruce Willis's notebook. Climb the vent, okay? Just climb the vents, don't look back, just keep crawling, and sooner or later you will make it out. I believe in you, everyone. I believe in you. You can do it. Yeah, and on that note, yeah, have you got? Yeah.
Oh, do you want a fun fact about this one?
Yep, absolutely.
So, I don't know if you know, but this Die Hard was based off a novel.
Really?
Title I think it's something like Nothing Lasts Forever. I've forgotten the guy's name now, but so it's a series of 2 books, as far as I know. And the first one was called The Detective, which was awesome, which was made into a film back in the 60s.
Nice.
And then so it's the same character of John McClane. So when they wanted to make Die Hard, to turn the story into Die Hard, they were obliged to ask the actor who played John McClane in that 60s film if he wanted to reprise it. They really hoped he would say no, because he was quite old by this point. But they were obliged to ask him. So I was gonna ask you if you know or if you can guess. So I'll give you a clue. He was a very famous actor, but also a very famous singer, through like the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Was it Elvis?
It wasn't Elvis. No, it wasn't Elvis.
He
was part of a very famous trio.
40s, 50s, and 60s.
He might have even been in. Certainly, I think those were his peaks. So he might have been in the 30s. Well, like I can't.
Oof.
Let me look up.
Oof.
No, his nickname was Old Blue Eyes.
What was it? Oh no, actually, no. I'm drawing a blank. No, do tell.
It was Frank Sinatra.
Really?
So Frank Sinatra played John McClane in that first one, and they were obliged to ask him if he would want to reprise his role. Now, I think Frank Sinatra was maybe in his 70s by the time of Die Hard. He'd have been in it. He'd have been he'd have been in his late 60s. Sorry, his late 60s. So thankfully, he said no.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I think he read the script and they were shafts.
He was just like, "Yeah, no, my weary old bones won't take that.
We're not going to be doing this, you know." So that freed them up to go try and they wanted to try and get like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger with the original picks, but neither of them did it, and so they kind of eventually settled on Bruce Willis. The film was better for having Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah.
So incidentally, Bruce Willis doesn't think it's a Christmas film either. So there you go. But fun fact for what I think is one of my favorite films is it's so good.
Oh yeah. I was just gonna say, like, just when you were saying he was considered too old. I mean, how old was Roger Moore? Like in his later films,
120 or something.
Jesus.
He looks it by the time of what was that last one? View to a Kill.
View to a Kill. Yeah.
I think he was late 50s. Actually, I think I'm being harsh.
Yeah, it's more like when he's doing kind of the old man job. Like, for the record, absolutely love like his films, but yeah, it was getting to that stage where it is just like you look and you think, yeah, this isn't working. Something's
58, I think he was.
Yeah, and it's like, and it would have been the same with Die Hard. Like, can you imagine like him trying to rescue his wife and just being like, yeah, no,
yeah.
No.
Well, do you know how the end of the novel ends? The ending of the novel is brutal. So
really?
I think it's actually his daughter. It's not his wife. I think it's his daughter who gets kind of caught up in the kind of building heist. The novel ends up with like his daughter hanging off the roof of the skyscraper, and like John McClane trying to rescue her but not being able to, so she falls to her death.
Jesus.
So, imagine that as the ending to it if it wasn't Alan Rickman like falling. Also, Joe, a fun fact about that scene.
Yeah.
The Alan Rickman scene. They obviously had, like, suspended him across like a green screen thing.
Yeah.
But nobody told them when they were going to release it. So they just released it at one point. So that actual shock on his face is, like, real because he was not expecting it at all.
Oh my
so they
God.
got the actual illicit reaction.
So yeah, our final film. Yeah, I think we both decided to go for more of a classic one for their like final one because the other ones have kind of been quite fun and upbeat, whereas this one's definitely got more of a serious tone. That of course being It's a Wonderful Life, and I have to admit, like, I'm curious to hear how you came across it like first, but. Like, for me anyway, I went to... So, there's a local movie theatre that shows Christmas films every year. I don't know about this year, but, for obvious reasons, but...
Yeah.
Usually it shows, like, The Muppets Christmas Carol, all the classics, and I'm not talking about Die Hard this time. It's more or less the classic films, and... One of the ones that they showed one year, and I absolutely fell in love with it, was It's a Wonderful Life. So yeah, sorry, before I go on to like praise this film to the hill.
No, like, it's a really good point, because I was just trying to think that how I came across it, And I think the first time I watched it, it wasn't Christmas time. I think I might have just watched it
Really?
another. And yeah, I think it was one of these films. It's one of film that I came into. How
Hmm.
old did you say you were when you saw it?
To be fair, it probably was only like, oh, good question. I think it was probably when I was at university, maybe.
So kind of
Yeah,
relatively
like
recent.
about
Is it?
five, maybe 5, 7 years ago, maybe.
It's the same. I think it's the same for me. Like I was certainly a teenager when I watched it. Like, it's not something I
Yeah,
saw when I was a kid that I can remember anyway. And I think I just happened to watch it because I'd heard so much. I was kind of in a phase where I was trying to watch a lot of like kind of classic films,
yeah.
and so like I watched it, and no, I really enjoyed it. I don't think I quite appreciated it, but it's having watched it subsequently, and I watched it actually not long ago, again,
Hmm.
and just I've got such a bigger appreciation for it, and so I think we can now just go into just praising this amazing, solid
Oh,
gold
yeah.
film, which is just perfect in every way.
Because it's weird. It's like there's a lot of old like Christmas films you watch, and they're always so cheesy and over the
Yeah,
top. They're like, "Oh, God bless Christmas," am I right? And it's like, oh Jesus, oh, great,
get out of here, you.
great, great, great. And yeah, you're kind of like, it's kind of hard, when. It sounds bad, but it's like, well, we're so used to like the nihilism of like Jingle All the Way and Home Alone and Die Hard and things like that. But I mean, the film, if you don't know like what it's about this guy called George Bailey, who's in like it's like a small American town, isn't it? In like the
Yeah,
30s, I think.
yeah.
I want to
It's
say,
through like it's through his life, so to
yeah.
speak.
So it's like kind of
Yeah,
from the like end of the First World War, I
10s, I
think,
think.
to
Yeah,
yeah. So like the 1910s all the way through like to the Second World War and just after it up to the 50s, I think, give or take. I think it is
yeah.
or
I think it's
40s.
about mid 46 or something. I think
Yeah,
it's when the film came out. Towards
yeah,
the end.
because the only reason I'm thinking that is because of his brother in it that goes
Yeah,
off to war and then he
it's
comes.
certainly after. It's certainly
Yeah,
after the end. So,
yeah. But yeah, sorry. So it's about this guy called George Bailey who lives in like this town, and he always tries to be the best person he can be, and he always tries to promote himself and help people, and he's just the quintessential good guy. And you would think, okay, this is like one of these cheesy, like run of the mill films that's going to be like a really upbeat message. But then there's a turning point where he hits rock bottom. And I do think it's like something that a lot of people experience in their lives. There's always that
yeah,
one moment where just everything seems to break down, nothing is going right. And then he starts to ponder, like it's a really serious moment where he starts to think, what would the world be like if I just didn't exist at all? And he starts like spiraling down this hopelessness and just this utter, anguish. And then eventually, this is kind of where the miracle part comes in, where an angel is sent down to actually show him, what his life would be like. And, it shows him that essentially the time would be nothing like it is
yeah.
when he's alive. And eventually, like, he sees the error of his ways, he comes together with his family at the end, all happy and everything, but it's just so well done. Like, it's a long one, but I
It's
don't know.
worth it. Worth
Yeah,
it to sit.
absolutely. I mean, it is just one of those films where. I mean, it's not one of those films you could stick on and watch over and over again.
Yeah, and
Like,
you shouldn't. I think it's
yeah.
not meant for that. It is meant for that to watch like once a year,
Mm,
and just to remind yourself, just of the important things,
yeah.
that your life does matter, and that you are important, and
Yeah.
that you do impact more people, and that's why it's the ultimate Christmas film. It ticks every like all the things that we were talking about earlier on about what makes a good Christmas
Hmm.
film. It ticks every one of those boxes. It's got the magic, it's
Hmm.
uplifting. There's the triumph of adversity.
Hmm.
It's universal. Like I think most people could appreciate this film. It doesn't matter your age or
Hmm.
whatever. There's something that you'll recognize there because it is such a human story.
Hmm.
And George Bailey is just the ultimate hero in cinema
Oh,
history.
totally. Yeah.
Just the nicest guy who is just surrounded by just so many dicks, like his brother, his uncle, like
Yeah.
all these people who are just incompetent or like
Yeah.
selfish and just take advantage of him. But
Yeah.
he's just the nicest guy, and like he
Hmm.
always just manages to get through and just thinks about other
Hmm.
people. We should all be more like
Hmm.
more like George Bailey.
Yeah. Because
Um,
I mean, it's like what you were saying earlier about the adversity thing, because a
yeah,
lot of films, like especially nowadays, a lot of films are basically the adversity is like not getting the right present, or
yeah,
maybe in Die Hard, literally, like having to fight a terrorist, or having to fight robbers, Like, they're all kind of situations which I hope that a lot of us probably won't experience. Like in terms of, maybe with Jingle All the Way, but to like a
Yeah,
lesser extent, like not being able to get the right present. I hope no one's like dove off like a skyscraper as it blew up.
hopefully. I mean, if
Yeah.
you do, tell us. Please tell us
Yeah,
more.
yeah, please tell us. Or like had to fight like a Muppet for Christmas. But yeah, with It's a Wonderful Life, and again, I could honestly gush about the song for ages, but it is very human, I think. I mean, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, like no matter the time period, like obviously a lot of things have changed since the time that it came out and everything. But I mean, it's like even moments where he is like such a selfless person. Like I always remember the scene where I think does he not come back from his wedding and he's about to go on his honeymoon?
yeah.
Or is it he comes back from his honeymoon? I can't
No,
remember.
no, it is before he goes to his honey. It's every time he's about to leave the town,
Yeah.
to like strike out on his own. He wants to go to he wants to go to college. He wants to, travel the world. He wants to, he's going off to his honeymoon, as you say. He just can't get away.
Yeah. Because the town keeps bringing them back, like,
Yep.
especially that scene where they're about to go away. He's about to do, like, one selfless thing for himself, and then all of a sudden, they're all talking about the villain of the film, Mr. Potter, who does it really well. He's like the typical, very portly, egotistical, banker kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's like basically milking the town for what it's worth. And they're all saying, oh, we're going to borrow money off this evil businessman. Again, looping back to capitalism. And,
Oh,
yeah,
there's an old films.
it really is. And especially in this one, because he ends up like giving away his own money to
Yeah.
make sure that is, speaking of when you said he's surrounded by dicks, I remember there's one guy. So basically he's like, I can give you the money, but just enough to tide you over.
Oh
And
God,
there's
that's
this
great.
one dick at the beginning who's just like, no, I want all my money. I want all my money.
$200.
And it's like,
Whatever it is.
oh, you dick. And then, like, the next woman behind is just like, well, I only need $50 or $20,
Yeah.
something like that. Like, they're only taking what they need and things. And again, it's like, despite that, despite so many horrible people, he's
Yeah.
still willing to help. And I do think it's so human because they don't make him out to be like invincible or invulnerable. And I mean,
Yeah.
especially like with I'm going to probably go a bit deep here, so apologies, but with 2020 especially, and the whole like issues of like mental health and things like that going around, and it shows like because usually in a film like this, maybe if it was made nowadays, it's like the main character would kind of wander off, maybe look at a shop, and then go, you know what, things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
And then like kind of skip to the end. But with George Bailey, he doesn't. He kind of he has this breaking point, and it's like a lot like his kids are driving him up the wall. He's got like a kid that's sick, bloody Zuzu. And yeah, it's just like everything's just going wrong, and it just shows like even the best of like people can just kind of break down, and he just goes to such an extreme, so much so that God has to be like, yeah, here's an angel.
Has to intervene.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I think he misses right enough, does he not? He like throws the angel in the water
Oh
by
yeah,
mistake.
yeah. Well, Clarence as well.
Yeah.
Maybe just as incompetent in many
Yeah.
ways. Human
That's
characters crashes straight into the. Oh no! Or is it no? Is it no? Actually, I think he does mean that, doesn't he? 'Cause
Yeah,
he
yeah,
kinda
he does,
snaps
yeah.
George out of it. They're gonna get George back.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Should be. So no, fair. Sorry to.
Yeah.
Sorry to
No,
slam
sorry.
Clarence.
Yeah. No, sorry. But yeah, sorry. What were you gonna say there?
No, I was just gonna say. I was just gonna agree with everything you said. Like he is just he's a human being through and through. He's got so many good points, but he's flawed as well because we all are. We're all
Yeah.
human beings at the end of the day, and it's such a human story. And
Yeah.
like it's one of these. It's one of the. I know that we often say like this film's like, oh god, you hope they never remake them.
Yeah.
But this is one of these films that you just hope they never do touch and never remake because
I
I don't think
yeah.
you could ever. Nobody could play the part of George Bailey any close to how Jimmy Stewart does it. It was just like the perfect casting, the perfect moment. And what I find so interesting about that as well, because so this was 1946 when this film came out, so 1 year after the end of World War II, and Jimmy Stewart had been a bomber. Was he a pilot? I think he was a bomber pilot during the war, and so he'd been through a lot of bad stuff through that, and he was suffering from what they would now term post-traumatic stress at the time, and that really comes through, I think, in his portrayal of this. Like, although the character of George Bailey doesn't, so he's a guy who's been really physically and mentally damaged by what's happened, and that really comes through because Jimmy Stewart was trying to deal with his own sort of demons and his own experiences, and so it's why it's such a perfect like casting, and you can just see everything like his face and his acting and everything about it.
Yeah.
But what I find so interesting about this film as well is that, like, I don't know if you know this, but at the time it was a box office bomb.
Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah.
It did not do well at all. It was not well received. Didn't like. I think it did well in the awards and things, but like critic, I don't think it did that well, and commercially it certainly did not. Like the director Frank Capra lost a lot of money on it, and then what really got its popularity going was that the copyright, I think, I don't know what the word is, but it ran out basically. So lots of TV channels could start showing it. And so that's where it really started to pick up traction in the kind of 70s, the mid 70s, when it started becoming like shown at Christmas and things, because so many TV channels got the rights to it, to show it. And that's where its popularity just really swept up and soared from there to where it's become this staple of Christmas time now. So just a fascinating film through and through. And for my interesting fact for this one, so obviously this film now has like many fans and people who just think it's amazing, ourselves included.
Oh yeah.
But there was one group of people who did not like this film when it came out, and that was the FBI, who cited this film as an example of potential communist infiltration of the motion picture industry. I don't know if you can see if you can. Here's a question for you. Do you know what bit of the film they took most issue with?
Oh, well, let me think. What was it when he was trying to claim the moon for his girlfriend?
That was it. They were like, "Oh, communism right there."
The moon is ours. In fact, no, sorry, it wouldn't have been at that time. Sorry, I take that back.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let me think. It wasn't anything to do with the angel, was it?
No, it was nothing. There was nothing to do with the kind of religious aspect to it. They were all fine with that. It was a portrayal of Potter, the banker. They claimed that was such a as we just said, such a stereotypical, like, you know, evil banker. They were like, "Oh, this is what the communists think. This is what the communists do."
I mean, at the time, they probably weren't that far off. I mean, oh, that was quite funny, actually.
Yeah. So they were not. They saw this film as potentially dangerous when it first came out, which is hysterical to think about now. This a classic of, it's certainly a classic of American cinema, but world cinema as well. Probably at this point, it's spread that far.
Yeah.
But
I mean, like, just kind of one final point to, like, before we like finish up, but that is quite an interesting thing, because if you watch it, it's a very American film.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the character grows up in like a small American town. He faces a lot of issues that are very... I don't want to be like America festive, but you know, it's like a lot of... Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say, it's like, it's very American-centric, it's like a struggle and a journey that I think everyone can relate to.
Yeah.
That you kind of forget about it. You don't really think, oh, this is an American, you know, like, struggling. You think this is a human being.
Yeah.
That it's like something that you can, you know, relate to. Yeah, I just think it's really well done in that regard.
It's just perfect, yeah. As you say, the context is universal. As much as it's like an American man, you know, set in small town America, the context is universal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Beings, certainly. So yeah, can't say enough about this film. It's amazing.
It really is. Yeah. Next week, just that's all.
More on why this is so great.
Yeah. So, like, before we kind of wrap up, is there any like other Christmas films that you would say like in the honorary mentions list?
I think Elf has to go in there, because Elf is great in its own right. Like it's got really hard. Are you not a fan?
This is my turn to be the controversial one on the channel this time. I don't know. I like the film, but I think it's because when it came out, I never watched it. And the hype kind of like, you know when it came out and the hype just like absolutely ran away with itself.
Yeah.
And I feel as if for me it was kind of too hyped up to the extent when I actually saw it, I was kind of like, it's okay, you know. I mean, it's still a good film. I'm not gonna bash Elf at all, but for me, like, I was kind of like, it's...
Enough.
But yeah, that's my controversial Christmas opinion. Out the way.
No, it's a fair point. I respect your opinion. Bad Santa as well is one. It wouldn't be good in the top one, but it's one that I think is another quite refreshing, like, cynical take
Yeah.
on Christmas and the holiday period. It's a nice kind of counterpoint. It's not quite as good, I think, as Jingle All the Way, but
Yeah.
it's of that ilk, and it's enjoyable. Deck the Halls is quite a good one. I don't know if you've seen that one with Danny DeVito and Matthew Broderick.
It sounds
Um,
familiar, but I
it's the
can't.
one where Danny DeVito's a really extroverted like neighbor who wants to like make his house like the brightest so they can see it from
Oh
space. And then
yeah.
Matthew Broderick's a kind of neighbor because he wants his privacy and they kind of
Yeah,
clash.
yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah, so there's quite a few Christmas with the Cranks and good ones. So there's a lot of
Uh-huh.
honorable mentions there, but I don't think they would just quite crack the top five
Yeah,
for me.
it's the same for me. I mean, the one I thought of was The Grinch, the Jim Carrey one, which
Fair enough.
I've got like a very fond spot for it, but at the same time, I feel as if I went back and watched it without having watched it while I was growing up, it wouldn't have been the same.
Fair enough. My confession is I've never seen it.
I would recommend seeing it once, I have to say. I
Oh,
wouldn't
I will
say
definitely have to.
I wouldn't say it's like a film that's, oh, it's gonna blow your, socks off or anything, but
Yeah.
it's still it's still a film that I think is beloved because people grew up with it. I'm just trying to think if there's any other ones, like obviously other than the sequels to some of these, like Home Alone
Yeah.
2 and things like that. There's a lot of rom-coms, I have to admit.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is I feel as if, again, that idea of adversity and all of that is like, yeah, what's more perfect than heartbreak in a Christmas film? It's like, yeah,
Just what you want.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think Love Actually is probably like one of the,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that is definitely one of the popular
Highly
ones.
problematic film. But that's maybe for a different podcast.
Don't worry, I'll ask you after. I'm just trying to think what else. But yeah, there's like loads of films like that. I think
Four Christmases as well, that's one.
Do you know, funny enough, I think like one of the last films, and this is going to sound really weird, but one of the last films that I actually went to see in the cinema was Last Christmas.
Oh really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
must have been. Because we were going out, like me and the family, and it was just like, oh, is there anything on at the cinema? And that I feel sorry for the cinema because they had like refurbished their whole building. I think
Oh,
this was
yeah.
a couple of months before the lockdown, so I feel really sorry for them. But
No.
but yeah, it's like we went in, and I have to admit the most memorable bit was like having so much room because I am a tall guy. Like although my avatar is a red panda, I'm a very tall person.
You're a tall one.
Yeah, I'm like 3 red pandas in a trench coat. But yeah, that was like one of the last films. Haha, Last Christmas. I watched Last Christmas. Oh god,
God.
it's like long story short, it's like about a woman who I think she's one of those typical like quirky, like it's Amelia Clark, from Game of
Oh, yeah.
Thrones. Yeah, and it's her like falling in love with someone, and there's twists and turns and blah blah blah. I mean, it's an alright film, but it's not something that would make the top 5 list. But yeah, no, that was just it was just a fun aside that was probably one of the last films I saw before the lockdown and everything.
Oh my god, before everything took that massive U-turn.
That is very true. Before we end, a little announcement. So first of all, thank you all so much for sticking with us and listening to our top 5 Christmas films. Thank you again, Adam, for sticking with me.
No, thank you for having me, and thank you everybody as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, before we sign off, as always, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, we have a bit of an announcement. So next week, of course, we won't be doing a Chatsunami live, but we will still be publishing an episode. Do you want to explain it, Adam? Because I'm really excited for it, but I feel as if you'd probably
Right.
explain it
I'll
better.
I'll explain, and
Yeah.
then if I miss any key points, you can jump in.
Go for it.
So to bounce, since we've been talking about good Christmas films here, we thought we'd balance it out and get the karmic opposite and talk about some bad Christmas films. But rather than coming up with a top 5 or doing like a similar format, we thought we'd do something a little different. So Fraser and I have both selected a film that we think is probably the worst, or maybe one of the worst like Christmas films we've ever seen, and we're gonna make the other person watch it, and then we will come up with our own reviews of it, our own thoughts, our own feelings on it, and that will be the Chatsunami next week. Will be us discussing that and dealing with the fallout and trauma,
Yeah.
I imagine, from these
Debate-
terrible films.
Yeah, to basically see if our friendship still stands after this, essentially. We've basically chosen one Christmas film. One very bad one kind of bottom of the barrel. Not a great film. And we're both going to go away. We're going to watch our respective films. We're going to record the episodes, and you guys will get to find out our opinions next Wednesday. So before, you know what, because, you're such an awesome co-host, I'll let you talk about yours first.
Talk about
Or
first,
sorry,
right?
not talk about, but sorry, like reveal yours
Reveal
first.
what it is. And so
what film have you
here's
got
hoping
for me?
we both haven't picked the same one, but here we go. So
Yeah.
the one that I've selected for you to watch, to review, and to delve into is 1984's horror slasher film, Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh my god. Okay, that is not the same as I've got.
Oh, we're releasing a different film.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
are in for a treat, my friend. Trust
well-
me. You are in for an ultimate. Do you want me to give you a little, like, do you want a little, like, synopsis, like a little kind of summary of the general plot, or do you want to just go?
You know what? No, I'm going to go in blind.
That's probably a better way to do it, actually. But you're in for a treat, my friend.
Well, I've also got a horror film for you, in a different way. So this is a film I watched at university of all things. So one of my old flatmates and I watched, like, we had this like period where we just binged a lot of terrible films. And I remember Green Shield, I can see in the chat, used to say to us, "Oh, why are you watching so many bad films?" And you know what it's like. Like, see if you watch it with friends, it's a lot of fun. But I don't know how much fun this is going to be for you watching it.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, the film that we watched, because you've already seen Santa with muscles and things like that, so I haven't chosen
Yes.
that. But one film, I don't know if you've seen it, it's actually got two titles.
Oh my god.
The first one is Alone at Christmas,
Yeah.
but it's colloquially known, I can't even speak because I'm so excited, is Bone Alone.
Oh, no.
Yes. It's the dog version of Home Alone.
Oh my god. I did not know such a thing existed.
Oh, it exists! It really exists. And
I was so worried there when you said that second title. I was like, oh my, what are you making me watch here, man? So I'm at least slightly relieved to know
Yeah.
that, like,
Oh, absolutely.
the bone in the title refers to a dog, at least, thank God.
Fortunately.
Oh my god,
Jesus.
well, I cannot wait for this.
It is by far one of the weirdest films I genuinely have ever seen in my life. Like, I remember watching it, and some scenes are like, you watch them and it's supposed to be, like, you know in Home Alone where there's some traps that they set and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my, like, when you revisit them as an adult and you look at it and you go, oh my god, that could have killed him. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. So, yeah, I'll make sure you've got a copy tonight, and yeah, enjoy.
I'll also make sure you have a copy of Silent Night Deadly.
Oh, God.
I can't believe this. This is
This is...
going to be a riot in every sense of the word.
Oh, I cannot wait. So, yeah, on that, like, cheery festive note, yep, 9 days away, as of recording, yep, 9 days away from good old Christmas, and yeah, so as I said, next week we will not be recording Chatsunami Live, but we will be recording ahead of it. So we'll probably post the Christmas Films episode, along with our very special episode of Bad Christmas Films.
Why would I agree to this?
Oh, you're gonna love it. If you
No,
love Birdemic and Ice Queen, trust me, you'll love this. So yeah, we will be recording that. We will be posting it, and yeah, if you want to see any more information about that and Adam's eventual spiral down the rabbit hole of bad films, yeah, you can see me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and of course TikTok. Still don't know what a TikTok is, but you know what? We'll get there. But I am under the name Satsunami42, so you can check me out there. And thank you again, Adam, for putting up with me tonight.
Oh no, thank you for putting up with me.
Yeah, no problem. It's always a pleasure, especially to talk about Christmas films.
Too right.
Nice. And yeah, as always, stay safe, stay awesome, stay very jolly, and most importantly, stay hydrated. Bye, guys.
Bye.